You ever stood at the edge of everything you thought you knew, watching it all crumble like sand through your fingers? That's where I found myself, standing in the ruins of what used to be my comfort zone. But here's the thing about standing in ruins. You can finally see the sky without a roof over your head. I'm alone, but I'm alright. For words that used to taste like defeat now feel like victory on my tongue. You see, society's got this weird obsession with pairs, with crowds, with noise. They tell you being alone is something to fear, something to fix, something to run from. But what if I told you that your solitude is actually your superpower? What if I told you that the quiet moments when it's just you and your thoughts are actually forging you into something extraordinary? I remember the first time I truly embraced being alone. It wasn't by choice. Life has a way of stripping away the optional until you're left with just the essential. And you know what I discovered? I discovered that I am the essential, not the relationships that failed, not the friends who faded away, not the dreams that didn't pan out exactly as planned. Me. Just me. And that realization hit harder than any motivational speech ever could. Because when you truly understand that you are enough, just as you are, standing on your own 2 feet, something shifts inside you. The world stops looking like a series of closed doors and starts looking like an open road. You see, being alone doesn't mean being lonely. Being alone means being complete, being whole, being self-contained. It means walking into a room and not immediately searching for familiar faces. It means making decisions based on your truth, not someone else's comfort. I learned to dance with my solitude, to find rhythm in the quiet. And let me tell you something, there's power in that silence. There's strength in knowing that you can face the day with nothing but your own resolve as company. The world tries to sell us this idea that we need constant connection, constant validation, constant noise. But have you ever noticed how the most profound transformations happen in silence? A seed breaks through its shell alone in the dark. A butterfly emerges from its cocoon in solitude. A diamond forms under pressure in complete isolation. Your aloneness isn't a punishment. It's preparation. It's the universe giving you space to become who you were meant to be. I stopped apologizing for taking up space alone. I stopped making excuses for showing up by myself. I stopped trying to fill every moment with noise just because silence made others uncomfortable. And something magical happened. I found my voice, my real voice, not the echo of others' expectations. I found my path, not the one society laid out, but the one my soul recognized. I found my strength, not in numbers, but in the quiet certainty that I am enough. You want to know what true power feels like? It's walking into a restaurant alone and ordering a meal without hiding behind your phone. It's taking yourself on adventures without waiting for company. It's celebrating your victories, no matter how small, even when there's no one else around to witness them. Because here's the truth they don't tell you about being alone. It's not about the absence of others. It's about the presence of yourself. Full, complete, unfiltered presence. When was the last time you sat with yourself without distraction? When was the last time you listened to your own thoughts without trying to drown them out? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and truly saw yourself? Not who others want you to be, but who you are. That's where the real journey begins. In those moments when it's just you, facing yourself with complete honesty. And yes, sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's downright terrifying. But that discomfort, that fear, that's just your old self making way for who you're becoming. And who you're becoming is unstoppable. Because when you learn to be alright with being alone, you learn to be unstoppable in every situation. When you master solitude, you master life. So stand tall in your aloneness. Wear it like a crown, not a curse. Let it shape you, strengthen you, transform you. Because being alone isn't your weakness, it's your winning edge. You know what's funny about being alone? The world keeps trying to fix something that isn't broken. They see you standing by yourself and assume you're missing a piece. But what they don't understand is that you're not missing anything. You're discovering everything. I remember when I used to fill my calendar just to avoid empty spaces. I used to dread weekends with no plans, evenings with no company. Now, those are my power hours. That's when I build my empire of self-reliance, brick by solitary brick. Because here's what happens when you embrace being alone. You start hearing your intuition instead of other people's opinions. You start feeling your own rhythm instead of dancing to someone else's beat. You start living your truth instead of performing for an audience that never asked for your authenticity anyway. And let me tell you about authenticity. It's not always pretty. Sometimes it's messy, raw, uncomfortable. Sometimes it's sitting with your thoughts when they're not being particularly kind. But that's where the real strength is built. In those moments when it's just you, facing your demons and choosing to grow anyway. I've had people ask me, "Don't you get scared being alone?" And I tell them, what's scarier, being alone or losing yourself in the crowd? Because that's the real danger, isn't it? Losing yourself in the noise of others' expectations. Drowning your own voice in the sea of everyone else's shoulds and shouldn'ts. Being alone taught me something precious. The difference between solitude and isolation is your mindset. Isolation is a prison. Solitude is a palace where you reign supreme. In this palace, every quiet moment is an opportunity. Every solo adventure is a chance to prove to yourself what you're capable of. Every challenge faced alone is another jewel in your crown of self-reliance. You want to know what real strength looks like? It's not bench pressing your body weight or running a marathon. It's sitting alone with your thoughts and not running from them. It's facing your fears without anyone holding your hand. It's building yourself up when there's no cheerleading squad in sight. I stopped waiting for someone to complete me, because I realized I was never incomplete to begin with. I was just temporarily believing someone else's story about what wholeness looks like. Your alone time is not empty space waiting to be filled. It's fertile ground where your true self can finally breathe and grow. It's the workshop where you craft your dreams without interference. It's the stage where you practice being the main character in your own life. And yes, sometimes it gets heavy. Sometimes the silence feels loud enough to break you. But that's just your strength being tested, not your weakness being exposed. Every time you choose to face another day alone and unafraid, you're winning. Every time you take yourself out to dinner, go to a movie, or tackle a new challenge solo, you're growing. Every time you resist the urge to fill your solitude with noise, you're healing. Because here's the truth about being alone. It's not a waiting room for better things to come. It's not a punishment for things that didn't work out. It's not a sign that you're doing life wrong. It's your masterclass in becoming, your private consultation with destiny, your one-on-one session with greatness. And trust me, the lessons you learn in solitude, they're the ones that stay with you forever. They're the ones that transform you from the inside out. They're the ones that no one can ever take away from you. So when someone asks you why you're alone, smile. Because you know something they don't. You know that being alone isn't your weakness. It's your secret weapon. Let me tell you something about warriors. They're not born in crowds. They're forged in solitude. Every great story of transformation begins with someone standing alone. Every breakthrough starts with a moment of singular clarity. I used to think strength was measured by how many people stood beside you. Now I know it's measured by how tall you stand on your own. Because being alone isn't just about physical solitude. It's about finding your center when the world is spinning chaos around you. It's about holding your ground when everyone else is shifting with the wind. It's about knowing your worth isn't determined by your relationship status or your social calendar. Your worth is determined by the fire in your soul. The one that burns brightest when you're alone. The one that lights your path when no one else is around to hold up a torch. You see, I've learned something powerful about being alone. It's not the absence of connection. It's the presence of self-mastery. Every moment spent in solitude is an investment in your inner strength. Every solo decision is a brick in the foundation of your character. Every private victory is a testament to your resilience. And let me tell you about resilience. It's not just about bouncing back. It's about bouncing back higher than before. It's about turning your alone time into your power time, your quiet moments into your quantum leaps, your solitude into your sanctuary. Remember this: the lions don't hunt in packs. The eagles don't fly in formation. The most powerful forces in nature often operate alone, not because they're weak, but because they're strong enough to stand apart. You're not alone because you have to be. You're alone because you're strong enough to be. Strong enough to hear your own thoughts. Strong enough to trust your own judgment. Strong enough to walk your own path. And that path, it's not empty. It's filled with opportunities that only appear when you're brave enough to walk alone. It's lined with lessons that can only be learned in solitude. It's marked with victories that taste sweetest when they're yours alone. I'm alone, but I'm alright. More than alright. I'm thriving in this space I've created for myself. This space where my voice doesn't have to compete with others. Where my dreams don't have to squeeze into someone else's vision. Where my strength gets to shine without dimming itself for anyone's comfort. And here's what I want you to remember. Your solitude is not a sentence. It's your superpower. Your alone time is not empty. It's essential. Your independent spirit is not a flaw. It's your foundation. So stand tall in your aloneness. Let it amplify your authenticity. Let it magnify your mission. Let it solidify your strength. Because one day, people will look at you and wonder how you do it. How you stand so tall without leaning on anyone. How you shine so bright without borrowing anyone's light. And you'll know the secret. You're not just alone. You're aligned with your true self. You're not just surviving, you're thriving. You're not just making it. You're making history. Your story isn't about being alone. It's about being complete. Complete in your solitude. Complete in your strength. Complete in your journey. So wear your aloneness like armor. Carry it like a crown. Because you're not just alone and alright. You're alone and unstoppable. You're alone and unbreakable. You're alone and unprecedented. And that's not just alright. That's absolutely extraordinary. Remember, the most powerful version of you is waiting on the other side of embracing your solitude. Step into it. Own it. Become it. Because being alone isn't your burden. It's your breakthrough.